Today we are going to discuss the difference between conclusions that you can draw from using either correlational or experimental research designs. First, let's discuss the difference between the two. Correlational research looks at the relationship between at least two variables. Now you might ask, what are variables? Well, variables are anything that when measured can have varying levels. For example, height, educational level, achievement on a test, and so on. Using correlation, we can look at these variables and see how changes in one of the variables corresponds to changes in another. So we can see, for example, how changes in height are related to changes in weight. We can actually get a number that tells us about this relationship. This number is a statistic called the correlational coefficient, which is a statistical representation of the relationship between two variables. The relationship between two variables can be positive, meaning that the relationship is direct. If one variable increases, then the other increases, or conversely, if one decreases, then the other decreases. An example of this is self-confidence and achievement. They are positively correlated with each other. So in general, if self-confidence increases, achievement increases. And if self-confidence decreases, so too does achievement. The relationship between two variables can also be negative. This means that the relationship is inverse. If one variable increases, then the other decreases. A good example of this is the correlation between the number of absences and performance in a class. As the number of absences increases, performance is likely to decrease. So, in general, the more absences you have, the worse your performance. One thing that you should know about correlation is that it is limited in the information it provides to us. Basically, a correlation can only tell us that two variables are related. It cannot tell us that one causes the other. A phrase that makes this point quite well, and is one that any savvy psychology student should know, is that correlation does not equal causation. Correlations cannot give us information about cause and effect. If you want to know whether or not one variable causes another, you must use an experimental design. In a true experiment, you manipulate one variable and see if that manipulation has an effect on an outcome of interest. If I wanted to see if listening to music makes someone happier, I could have an experimental design where I have two groups of students and have one group listen to music and the other group listen to nothing. So I would manipulate whether or not they were listening to music. Then I could look to see if the groups differ in their moods. This will let me know if listening to music caused a change in mood. Let's say the results show that the music group had a better mood compared to the non-music group. Because I manipulated whether or not they listened to music, and let's assume the groups are pretty similar to begin with, I can say that music caused an increase in mood. Two important variables in experimental design that you should know are the independent variable, the IV, and the dependent variable, the DV. The independent variable is the variable that is being manipulated, the variable I am changing because I think it has an effect. In our example, music is the IV because it was manipulated. Some listened to music and some didn't. And also, we believe that music should have some effect on mood. Finally, the dependent variable is the variable affected or influenced by the independent variable. It is the variable being measured. You might want to think about it as if the dependent variable depends on the independent variable. In our example, the DV is mood. We are measuring mood and we believe that it should be affected by the music, which is our IV. So, in summary, we discussed two major types of research design, correlation and experiment, and the conclusions you can draw from each. Correlation shows the relationship between two variables, but it is limited because it can't determine cause and effect. Correlation does not equal causation. Experiments are able to determine cause and effect.
Created using Powtoon.